Welcome to another deep dive. We're tackling generative AI today, and everyone seems to be talking about it. It's everywhere, right?
It really is.
And we've got this blog post here that really tries to break down why generative AI is having this huge explosion.
It does a great job of laying out the sort of the key pieces of why this is happening, and I
Yeah.
think, kind of what to look forward to as well. So, yeah, good stuff.
Awesome. Well, the blog post starts off by talking about machine learning and how that's the engine behind all of this, and particularly deep learning,
Yeah.
which is a subset of that. Can you explain to me what's going on under the hood that's letting AI be so creative these days?
Yeah, so it really comes down to neural networks. They've gotten incredibly good at learning patterns,
Okay.
and essentially, these neural networks are modeled after the human brain.
Yeah.
You have all of these interconnected nodes that are processing information, and through deep learning, they can analyze these massive data sets, learn the patterns, and then actually generate new content based on those patterns.
So we're basically just teaching computers to see the world and be like, okay, now go make something new.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And this blog post talks about GANs, or generative adversarial networks. That sounds really
Just
interesting.
one of the really sort of mind-blowing examples of this, where you have two AI systems that are basically having this creative battle. You've got one that's trying to generate something realistic,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got another one that's acting as the judge, trying to spot whether it's real or fake.
Mm-hmm.
And so
So it's AI battling AI.
it is.
And
That's like a movie.
it is. That's what makes it so interesting. But that's what leads to these hyper-realistic results.
Oh, okay.
Because they're pushing each other to improve until that generated content is almost indistinguishable from the human-made stuff. So when you think about things like, these incredibly realistic AI images you see, or even deep fakes, this is the power of GANs at work.
Okay, so that makes sense. And then I've been hearing a lot about transformers as well. And the blog post sort of calls these out as revolutionizing the way that AI understands language.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, what is that? How is that even possible?
So it's a big jump forward. And I think the way to think about it is earlier models would process language sort of word by word, which is limiting
Yeah.
when you're thinking about really understanding it. But what transformers can do is they can analyze entire sentences, paragraphs even, at once. They can understand context, they can understand relationships between words, and then generate text that's not just grammatically correct,
Uh-huh.
but actually makes sense and feels natural. And I think this is really why we see these chatbots getting so good.
Yeah.
They're not just spitting out random words anymore. They can actually have conversations.
They feel more natural, yeah.
Exactly.
And so then the blog post kind of goes on to talk about how generative AI isn't just for
Right.
super techie folks anymore.
Yes.
It's becoming more accessible.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's really exciting is that it's becoming democratized.
Okay.
And, user-friendly platforms, pre-trained models,
Yeah.
have made this technology much more accessible
Okay.
to a wider range of people.
And so are there any specific tools that come to mind that are kind of at the forefront of this movement?
Yeah, I think, you see a lot about OpenAI's GPT models
Uh-huh.
and DALL-E,
Oh, okay. Yeah. I see those everywhere.
and I think those are really at the forefront.
Yeah.
GPT can generate text on a variety of topics, while DALL-E can create images
Yeah.
from text descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's giving anyone, regardless of coding skills,
Okay.
the ability to sort of play around with this and see what they can do.
So, theoretically, I could go to DALL-E right now and be like, hey, give me a picture of my cat
Yeah.
riding a unicorn through space.
You got it. And that's really the beauty of it.
And I don't even have to know how to code. That's
Exactly.
amazing. So this is really empowering people to do things that maybe they never thought they could do before.
People from all walks of life
Yeah.
can now experiment and innovate in ways that were simply impossible just a few years ago.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. And it seems like it's not just creative applications, though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there are all sorts of different industries that
Yeah.
are using generative AI in ways that are kind of mind-blowing. Like the blog post talks about how AI is being used to design new drugs.
It is.
I mean, is that even real? Is that a real thing?
It's a real thing. I mean, pharmaceutical companies are using it to design new drug molecules, predict their effectiveness,
Oh, wow.
optimize them for specific conditions. And so, this could really revolutionize drug discovery,
Yeah.
lead to faster development of treatments.
That's incredible. And it also talks about designing buildings and cars.
Yeah.
So is it like AI architects and AI engineers now?
It's not necessarily that they're replacing them,
Okay.
but it's becoming this very powerful tool
Okay.
in their arsenal.
Yeah.
So generative AI can be used to optimize designs for structural integrity.
Okay. Energy efficiency, even aesthetics. So you can think about buildings that are not only functional, but incredibly beautiful. And that's AI helping to sort of push the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah. And then for something a little bit more fun, I guess, how is it shaking up the entertainment world? Because the blog post talks about that too.
Yeah. So get ready for personalized entertainment.
Okay.
AI can analyze your preferences and create content that's specifically tailored to you. So imagine a video game that's evolving based on how you play,
Wow.
offering challenges that match your skill level, or a movie that adapts in real time based on your
It's like
reactions.
choose your own adventure.
It is, but for everything.
It is. And that's where we're headed.
It sounds like the future is here.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I guess finally the blog post talks about how the business world is also being
Oh, absolutely.
really impacted by this. Can you
Yeah.
give me some examples?
Yeah, it's already having a huge impact. So, businesses are using AI to analyze massive amounts of data, identify trends, make better decisions. So it's helping them do everything from personalizing marketing campaigns to predicting future market behavior.
So it's not just about AI creating things, but it's also helping us understand the world better.
It's augmenting
Greater choices.
human capabilities. It's like having this superpowered assistant that can analyze information for you, generate creative content, help you see patterns you might otherwise miss.
Yeah, okay. So we've talked about a lot of the good stuff.
Right.
There's obviously some challenges as well as
Yeah.
this becomes more powerful and gets more integrated into our lives. And I know you've got some thoughts on that.
I do.
So we'll explore those next.
Yeah. We'll dig into that a little bit more. It's really important to consider the implications as well.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really important, I think, to consider the implications, as this technology gets more powerful and more integrated into our lives.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things that I'm really curious about is, the blog post talks about the economic impact. On one hand, you've got this potential boost in productivity and maybe even the creation of new jobs. But there's also the flip side of that, where maybe some jobs are displaced.
Yeah, it's a complicated issue. On one hand, you have the potential for generative AI to automate a lot of these tasks, make businesses more efficient. So theoretically, that could free up humans to do more creative and more strategic work, and maybe that leads to new opportunities. But then you have the other side of that coin, where jobs that involve those automatable tasks could be affected.
Right. And so I guess what can people do to kind of prepare for that?
I think this is where lifelong learning becomes really crucial. As the job market evolves, people need to be more adaptable, willing to learn new skills, maybe retraining for entirely new roles or upskilling within their existing fields.
Right. It sounds like we need to be thinking about education and training programs to sort of help people navigate that shift.
Yeah, absolutely. Investing in programs that really focus on those skills that will be in high demand in this new AI-driven economy.
And what are some of those skills?
Critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, emotional intelligence. These are all going to be really valuable.
Yeah, I think those are all really good points. And it's not just about learning specific technical skills, but just that mindset of being adaptable.
Exactly.
Knowing that things are going to be changing and you have to be ready.
Yeah, and this is not just for individuals, right? Businesses and governments also have a role to play in helping people make this transition.
Okay. So another thing that I've been talking about, just kind of on the concern side, is, we talked about deepfakes before. What about misinformation and just the spread of, things that aren't real? Because if AI can create things that look so realistic, that seems like it's a recipe for, potential chaos.
It is a valid concern. As generative AI gets more sophisticated, it's going to be harder to tell what's real and what's not. And this means we're all going to have to be much more critical consumers of information than ever before.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for how we can do that? I feel like we're already bombarded with so much.
We are. I think it comes down to good information hygiene.
Okay.
Being skeptical, especially online, double-checking sources, looking for verification from reputable organizations, fact-checkers, those sorts of things.
So it sounds like media literacy is going to be really important.
Absolutely essential. We need to equip people with the tools to really evaluate information critically and identify when they're being potentially manipulated.
Yeah. Okay. And then finally, I guess when we're talking about all this creative content that AI is making, what about intellectual property? Like, who owns the rights to that content?
That is the million-dollar question. I mean, it's something legal experts and policymakers are grappling with right now.
Yeah.
Because copyright laws, they were designed for human creators.
Right.
They don't neatly apply to these AI-generated works. So
It's a whole different ballgame.
it is. And it's definitely something we're going to see play out as this develops. How do we balance the rights of creators
Yeah.
with the potential of AI to generate these new works?
Right. It sounds like we're entering like uncharted territory.
Yeah, we are. In a lot of ways, yeah.
Okay. Well, I know that the blog post that we've been talking about ends on this note of cautious optimism,
Mhm.
acknowledging these challenges, but also emphasizing like the incredible potential of this technology.
Yeah.
So I guess for you, what are you most excited about?
I think what excites me the most is the potential for generative AI to amplify human creativity and innovation.
Okay.
So imagine a world where anyone can use AI as this tool to bring their ideas to life, no matter what their background is, their technical skills. We could see this explosion of new art, music, literature, scientific discoveries. The possibilities are really endless.
Yeah, it's like we're giving everyone superpowers.
It is.
But with that comes great responsibility, right?
Exactly. And that's why it's so important that we're having these conversations now.
Yeah.
But the implications, the ethics, the potential benefits and challenges. We need to make sure that we're developing and using this technology responsibly
Yeah.
with a focus on human well-being and societal good,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, for sure. It feels like we've really gone deep on generative AI. We've seen how it works, imagined all the amazing things it could do, and then talked about some of the big questions it raises.
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about.
So for everyone listening out there, now that you've heard all this, what are the key takeaways? Like, what should you be walking away from this with?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that generative AI is here to stay. It's already changing the world in some pretty big ways.
It's not a fad on.
No, not at all. So it's important to understand how it works, both the good and the bad, the potential and the risks. But I also think it's important to be a part of the conversation about how we want to use it going forward.
So this isn't just something for like tech people to worry about.
Definitely not. This is something that affects all of us, so we should all have a say in how it develops.
I like that. It's like the future of AI isn't set in stone.
Exactly. That's something we're all creating together through the choices we make.
I think that's a good point to end on. We've covered so much today, from how generative AI is changing creative industries to how it could even change what it means to be human. I mean, when machines can create things just like we can, it really makes you think.
It really does.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of generative AI. We've explored why it's suddenly become such a big deal, talked about the mind-blowing ways it's being used, and really tried to grapple with the challenges it presents.
It's been a pleasure being here.
And before we go, one last thought for you to ponder. As you go about your day, notice how generative AI is already showing up in your life. Maybe it's in an ad you see, a song you hear, or even a news article you read. And when you see it, ask yourself, what excites me about this? And what makes me nervous? Because the future of generative AI is unfolding right now, and we all have a role to play in shaping it.
That's a great point. Stay curious, everyone. Keep exploring and keep asking those questions.